Thank you for allowing for a brief recess. Mr. Manager, would you like to continue?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Moving along to parking plan improvements. Right now, we're capturing, we being the Public Works Director, Mr. Murphy and myself, are identifying, I'd like to give the police department just a thank you very much for enforcing the parking. I think we're going to see increased revenues this year because of your efforts. I know it doesn't make everyone happy, but it's keeping honest people honest, and it's appreciated in the town hall. But we're working forward. It goes along. It's aligned with the Klotz demolition. We're looking at ways to improve our current parking plan. I know the Public Works Director has ordered more meters, and we're also increasing the fees to $2. That should happen within the next 4 weeks. Is that correct, Mr. Murphy? So we anticipate some additional revenues gained. In the spirit of complete revenue capture, what we were able to identify over the last 2 or 3 weeks, things that have fallen in the course of years off the plate is a revisiting of the bed and breakfast or transient tax, as well as identifying that there is a long-term rental tax on Colonial Beach's books, Mr. Mayor. And it hasn't been executed in the last couple of years. So I'm going to work with our town attorney as well as the town clerk to identify what that looks like, and then hopefully in our next working session bring it to you to revisit it so we can begin capturing said revenues.
And also that goes with the document that was handed out at the last work session. If you just would send me any thoughts that you might have.
So I wish we could have implemented it back in February. It took some research, and we want to make sure that we get it right when we come to the town council and present to you. Most of the things are actually on our books. We just haven't, in the last couple of years, capitalized on those revenues. So just know that it's coming to you, sir. And then parking plan, as I previously mentioned. The special reports is just a couple of highlights. As mentioned before, the town website is probably within 1 week of completion. I've been able to look at the preliminary design. It looks good. Again, I want to foot stomp if I haven't gotten your photo and you've been requested, please do so. It looks so much better when we have a photo up there. So it's very sharp. It's a very sharp site. So again, I wanted to re-foot stomp the long-term rental revenue. We haven't actualized it within the next working session. I plan to have something to present to you, what we have on the books and what that might look like in terms of anticipated gains for FY19. And financial outlook. This is not new, but I want to keep it in front of the council that, again, fiscal year 19 is meant to be a baseline year. We're really trying to understand exactly where the expenditures, now that we've reorganized, we've realigned, and we have an accurate all the way down to the line item number where things should be. We want to find out what FY19 is really going to hold. So there's minimal activity that are supplement to just life support activities for the town. And as things move forward, and as let's say we have a natural disaster, an event occurs, obviously we're going to spring into action, and we're going to create separate financial activities around that. But just as a whole, we're trying to keep FY19 as a financial baseline. And then we're also trying to, and will continue to capitalize on the town property sales as we move forward to replenish the CIP in the general fund. As we've mentioned through the budget discussions, that it's been chopped away at over years past, and we think that that's still a great way to replenish that fund, if you will. So that's what our majority of activities to look for the next months, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Murphy for Public Works, pending your questions.
Any questions for the manager?
Well, not a specific question on what you just went over here, but I think now would be a good opportunity to discuss the tourism merger with the museum.
Okay.
There's been a lot of discussion on that. I know we've had a couple emails going back and forth on it, and I made what I thought was a perfectly reasonable request the other day through email, just saying, hey, could you just hold off on it until we have a chance to discuss it here at Town Council. And I got an email back that basically said, in essence, I've been directed by the mayor to proceed, along with some other information.
No, we already had this discussion.
We did at the last work session.
Well, we're having it again.
Okay.
Is that
that's
okay?
fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
The
okay.
wheels
Because it
were-
wasn't resolved.
The wheels were in motion.
Okay, it wasn't
We got a
resolved.
consensus that day.
You may have gotten a consensus. I'm bringing it up again, if that's okay.
It's fine.
Okay? First of all, you said we didn't need a consensus. As a matter of fact, I was told the town manager didn't need the council's consensus,
Okay.
yet he's taking direction from you to do it. So that seems to be a little odd. Does it not?
I think we owe the public probably a little history of the events that occurred. It was in discussion about 2 or 3 months ago that we could gain synergies and efficiencies if we were to co-locate the tourism activity with the museum. With the understanding that in years past, it's been hard to man both. We weren't able to keep them open the amount of hours that really the public and the people who come visit our town would like to see. And due to there only being, I believe it is one person on the tourism council, we were also going to investigate changing the bylaws so we could bolster that activity. Over the last probably 4 to 8 weeks, I've met with both the museum and the tourism center to explain the action that we were looking at, being able to combine the both and also give them more assets too. I've looked into buying them an iPad, providing Wi-Fi so people on Yelp could give direct reviews, if you will, and really just capture what the digital world not really asks of us, but kind of requires in 2018 in order for us to be able to move our tourism efforts forward. We also have a couple of members that are affiliated with the Chamber of Commerce and our own Flag Shack contracted person for advertising would like to be a part of the Tourism Council as well. Given that the way the bylaws are written, they currently can.
I don't want to conflate those two issues. I agree with you 100%. We should widen our availability
Right.
to the tourism.
I'm not, Ms. Campbell, I mean, go through the history of events. So it was brought to council that we were looking at combining the 2 locations into one and discuss the synergies. And it was also taken to both the museum and to the tourist center, and it was socialized. At that point, I was given the okay to move forward with that. I pretty much had buy-in, I dare say, with 80% of the participants, some reluctant, but they understood that the value that added that would be gained. We are currently in the phase of moving. I've given them boxes. They're combining it. They've asked for paint. The majority of people involved with both organizations are on board with this move. Period. Period. They're on board with it. There are 1 or 2 people that no matter what I do to make the move easier, to make it hospitable, and to even provide additional assets, that just simply are not going to be okay with that. And I think what you're hearing is both minority, and I've received those phone calls as well. And the majority of people that I've spoken with, once I've explained in detail, as I just did, they seem to think that it makes sense to move forward. It's also my understanding that such an activity falls under the town manager's purview. Is that correct?
That was the email that Mr. Serby said that it fell under your purview, and
Yes,
you
sir.
would need council to
Yes, sir.
do this.
Well, it may fall under the town council's purview, but I guarantee
Manager's purview.
when I hear town manager's purview, but when I hear concerns from constituents, then it comes under our purview.
Which is what I was discussing.
Then it comes under our purview.
Which is what I was
And
discussing.
so let me follow up with you. I had heard there are 2 primary reasons, perhaps 3. I mean, you talk about synergies, I guess that means you've got one person doing 2 functions, essentially. But I understood there was a cost savings associated with it, is that correct?
There should be, and there's also a chance for additional revenue freeing up that space.
Okay, let's handle one at a time. What's the cost savings? Mr. Mayor, what's the cost savings?
Well, I mean, I haven't ran the electric bill, but.
But isn't that part of the consideration of the decision process in order to move folks and all the rest? I mean, don't you say, okay, there's a cost savings? You don't just say there's a cost savings, you look and say, well, what is the cost
I'll
savings?
speak on it. Let me speak
Okay.
on it, please. So, okay. I received several emails in the months of February, March, April. Kathy Bachman looking for help. We were down to one member of the tourism committee. So, having worked in the tourism trailer before, my wife worked there a couple times, knowing people near and dear who work there and can give their heart and soul to it, seeing how the numbers that were becoming much limited. It made perfect sense, in my opinion, to consolidate the two. Not only for the fact that it's still a block away. They can come up and not only ask questions, but to get a history of the town of Palm Beach. From the town standpoint, with the fiscal situation that we're in, that frees up a piece of waterfront property for us. So we can, one, either utilize the trailer as it is right now, as a vendor space or a restaurant space or something like that. We can remove the trailer and sell that property as well. It gives us a lot of different opportunities. But the main thing was it bolsters the amount of people who can help volunteer in that facility by having a consolidation of the two. So I don't know where the numbers are today. I don't know. Kathy, maybe you can tell us where the numbers are in terms of how many volunteers you have now compared to what you had then. And I'm not going to put you on the spot. We can get to that later. But anyway, that's where we were. That's where we got to. I was under the impression up until 2 days ago when you sent the email that everybody was on board. Everybody I had run into, constituents-wise, had said that they were on board, that they understood it, it made sense. I met with the manager. He had said in his Wednesday briefing to me that things were going well, the move was going well, and that he was going to actually facilitate some extra media and things like that through a computer. I think you said a bulletin board and some boxes and things like that to help. That's where it stood until the email I got, and that was the first time I had heard that the manager didn't need the council to do this. It's an administrative move, and then it was followed up by your questions here tonight.
Well, again, when I hear concerns from constituents, I'm gonna bring them to the council, and I think it becomes then a council issue, frankly. If people are concerned enough to call or email me, I believe it becomes a council issue. So we don't know how much we're gonna save. We're gonna save something, probably electric bill, but we don't know how much. We talked about development of the property. What's your plan for developing the property?
Well, I think the plan is to understand the opportunity that exists in front of us. We can't even get to that point until we vacate that property.
Oh, no. You can understand how to market a property with it still being occupied. Of course you can.
I found it wrong that Mr. Della, you're the one that wanted me to squeeze every penny I could from the expenditures and wasn't happy until I did.
I do, but you just don't squeeze at the expense of people's discomfort. I mean, what's the urgency? What is the urgency? No, what is the urgency? Why does it have to be done at the peak of our tourism season?
Mr. Dell, I
Yes,
understand.
why?
I truly understand that, every single day I'm in public, somebody comes up to me with a request to do this, or they're unhappy with something we did, and I get that. I totally get that. But collectively, I really think that this is for the good of the whole, okay? And, I appreciate what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I understand that. But we've had this conversation before. We had this conversation in a work session, I think, as recently as June 2nd, at some extent. And it's not, what is today? Today is the 20th. And the wheels stayed in motion, and nobody said a word until June 18th. And I don't know what to say. I mean, I hope it continues to move forward. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I understand that there's a lot of heart and souls going into a lot of this, but I really think at the end of the day, the collaboration between the two is best for the town. I think the citizens come, the tourists come, they get to visit the museum, pick up their brochures and things of that nature, and get town information. And we get to show off our history, which is what we're so rich in. That's what brings us besides the river. That's just my perspective. If the council wants to change that, they're more than welcome to.
Let me just say one more thing on it, and then I'll be quiet. Let me finish, Pete. Just one more thing. Number one, like I said before, I don't understand the urgency. But beyond that, it seems like this is another example of where we come up with a good idea, we vacate a property, and then we don't know how to develop it. you've got the boardwalk, you've got Elder Park, you've got all kinds of vacant buildings in this town that we vacated, and now we don't know what to do with. So now we're gonna have one more, and it has to be done at the peak of our tourism season. I just don't understand.
No, I think it's because a big part of it was that it wasn't about the money initially. It was about the consolidation efforts to build on the volunteerism, to make sure that we had people to cover the volunteerism. That was the issue, right there. At the time, we had lost a lot of people. We were down to one person on the council. The same June 2nd meeting, just 18 days ago, we voted, this council voted, again, I think it was consensus or might have been a vote, to allow people from outside of the town to be able to become part of the member of the tourism councils, to have voting rights on this tourism council, because for years, people like Gail Moore and other people who gave all their time weren't allowed to have a vote or be part of that. So we accomplished that. At the same time, we decided the consolidation was the right thing to do. And, you know, as far as I know, we were moving forward, and I thought we had support from both sides. I understood that there was a couple people who were upset about it, but I've never seen a consolidation or move occur where a couple people weren't upset about things. I get that. I totally do, but I think in the bigger scheme of things, I think at the end of the day, it's going to be better for the town. It's people and financially going down the road. I think it will as well. So, yeah, exactly. So, you know, again, if the council wants to change that, it's certainly within their rights to do so. I totally get it. I mean, that's our purview. We can certainly do that.
I would,
Mr. Bone?
Can I offer one thing? One, I don't think the town manager has that ability because the ordinance says he has the ability to readjust departments within his purview. The Historical Society is a 501(c) organization of its own. So I would recommend that if you're going to do it, and it's fine, I don't see one way or the other, but you establish an MOU with the Historical Society to have it done, to occupy in the space, not directed to be done, because they don't work for y'all.
It was never directed.
Well,
To be
he said
done.
move by the 27th, I don't know what that means.
Right. So, well, that was an email reply from a council person, is all that was.
Okay.
That's all it was.
I'm just
That
saying,
was-
he doesn't have that ability.
That was
I
not good.
understand
This
it's a
is not
MOU.
the first time this has been discussed. Again, this has been discussed by this council, I think twice now. Has it been twice? I know at least once.
I think the point is,
You're missing my point. I'm not saying it's not a good idea.
the memo of understanding would probably be pertinent, and these are the things that we continue to miss, crossing the T's and dotting the I's.
Right. Well, what I will say as well is the manager reached out to the principals of the organizations and, you know, got to go ahead at the end of the day
I'm
to do
just
it.
saying,
And
cross your T's, dot your I's.
so,
That's all I'm saying.
yeah, thank you. Bill, anything else?
I would just say, you know, what's the rush? I'd like to know what the cost savings is and what's the plan for development. I don't think that's too much to ask before we uproot folks.
Okay, that's fine. I'll just give you real quick, what I would say is that we vacate the building, we move into the museum, we have the rest of this summer to get the bugs worked out, and then we go into the following year as a collaborative effort, hopefully bigger and better, with support from the town. We move the trailer and/or lease the trailer space for upwards of whatever we can get for it at the time. And that's more money in the coffers for the town as well. Hopefully it'll also help the museum and the tourism group work together and be better for the town as a whole. So, anybody down here have anything else to say? No? Wiley? Okay.
I've been sitting here listening. I'm listening to Mr. Dollar. Is it really that urgent that they have to move before the summer's over with?
Mr. Burkott, they're currently in moving. I've given them boxes. It's my understanding that they're physically doing stuff this week. They've initiated, again, but the majority of people I spoke with are involved with those. were on board. So they're
Not all of
moving.
them, sir.
They've been moving.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, I understand.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah, not all of them, but the majority. I mean, I've given them boxes that they've put in, hey, we need an extra magazine rack. I was like, okay, we'll put in a purchase order for it. I mean, it's been in process this week. I mean, it's up to the council.
Museum felt they didn't have a choice. They didn't want to turn you down. They were afraid of what would happen to them. They're not happy about it, half of them. Some of them may be. And I am the only one that could have had any say because of being on the director's board. But I wasn't asked. And I don't have good feelings about it at all.
I think, I understand that you had said that you weren't happy with it.
That's right, I'm not
Yeah.
good with it at all.
Right,
That's
right.
what I'm stating.
I understand that, Ms. Whitestone, and I appreciate that. And I know you've given your heart and soul for many years of that.
Yes, and if
It's-
Barbara Cooper
it's not-
or Mary Ellen were here, they'd be banging on your doors
I
with
understand.
cameras. And they'd probably just go ahead and buy the damn building.
I understand. I totally get that. But again, this was going back to our fiscal responsibilities as well as consolidation of the manpower that was available.
Well, it's
Mr.
the
Jarvis, you're
reason we
shaking your
have
head,
never
but you weren't here
had.
for the meetings to understand it or the back and forth, sir. I'm sorry, I really don't, we're not here, no, this isn't intentional against tourism or the museum. In no way, shape, or form.
You're against the town being right there so people can get there to you. I don't know where you think we're gonna have any space whatsoever to display in the museum.
Okay.
I'd like to make a recommendation that we vote on postponing this move until we have a business plan outlining the cost savings and a plan to market that property going forward.
I'm fine with that.
You need a second.
But he said, you already said he had back
Excuse
up.
me, I'm sorry. You need a second.
I second the motion.
Okay. Do we even need to vote? I mean, why, we never voted to approve it, so why would we need a vote? I'm just saying, I mean, if we never voted to approve it, why would we vote to not approve it? I mean, you know, again, it just goes back. I'll just make my point as clear as I can. It's not intentional. It's certainly not to hurt anybody's feelings. It was in April and May, there were issues with enough help. Simple as that. So, you know, I'm sorry that it turned out like this, but this is typically what happens when you try to consolidate. So, if the council wants to, well, you have a motion.
We have a
second?
motion and a second.
Okay, all right. And what's the motion and what's the second?
The motion is that the move of the tourism be delayed until a business plan is developed outlining the cost savings associated with the move and also addressing how the property will be marketed.
I won't vote for that, but why don't, let's just, okay, why don't we say something like, it'll be delayed until next year. I mean, that's a lot of different points to, you're asking us to have.
Essentially
business
2
plan.
points.
You're asking us to have
2 points.
valuation and stuff.
I just don't think we not want another empty building, so I think we need to
Exactly.
have a use and a plan and something to put in place before we vacate.
I see what Mr. Ryder.
I was saying that, you know, whichever would come first, either the end of the season or if we have an interest in starting, whichever of those would come first.
Do you have an interest in Florida?
I have not started that. I would just like to say 2 things. The majority of municipalities across America, if we were to do things the right way, the tourism center is at the end of town as you come in.
Yep.
That's where it is. It's not in the middle of prime real estate. And I also heard from Councilman Deller say the human aspect of it. And I wish the same consideration was given to the police department a couple of weeks ago when talking about outsourcing that activity. And that's all I'm saying. I'll perform so that the council pleasure. I'll execute as necessary.
Okay. Okay, do we have an actual, you want to read the motion?
I don't have a
Okay. Again, I don't know why we're voting on something, I don't know why we're voting on something that, okay, well, we just strike the vote. Okay.
The original motion was to postpone a move until council is presented with a business plan. Then it was changed, but not with a second. Is developed, outlined, okay, that it be delayed until a business plan is developed outlining cost savings and how to market the property. And then finally, the last motion that came forward but has not been seconded, delayed until the end of the season or an interested party is entertained. Comes forward.
Mr. Rard, how do we get rid of this motion? There's three motions there, and we're not going to get a consensus. Let's get on with this thing.
Mr. Miller,
I mean,
I would recommend that you withdraw your motion and then restate it.
say again?
I would recommend that you withdraw your motion, all of them, and just restate it.
Okay, I only have one motion,
Okay.
but I'll be happy to restate it. You would like me to restate it?
No, I'd like for you, if it's your pleasure.
Yeah.
I recommend that since there are several iterations,
Right.
that you withdraw your motion and any amendments thereto, and then start over.
I withdraw the motion and any amendments thereto and restate it as follows.
And Mr. Serger, are you in agreement with that?
I second.
Okay. The motion is that the tourism stand not be moved and consolidated with the museum until a business plan has been developed which outlines the cost savings as well as a plan for marketing the vacated property.
I second that.
Okay, and then we had another one. Mr.
I need a
Rogers.
discussion of that.
Okay.
Now, what if we get that tomorrow? What's it gained us? That's why I added, whichever comes first, either defer this till the end of the season or until such time we have someone that's interested in the party, whichever comes first.
Bill, first, part of Bill. I'm talking discussion with you on that point. My point is when we think about how we decide and dispose of or deal with proposals for town property, we typically have to get an appraisal, we got to do this, we got to do that. And so I think that you've got to have that in place before we can even entertain anybody presenting to us a use or a sale or what have you. So I think that the other takes care of it.
At least just to guarantee that everything's going to stay there until the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't think there's any problem.
I mean,
Property like that.
As part of discussion, in the spirit of this, again, the spirit of this was to facilitate the citizens and the visitors coming to this town, was what it was. That was the only reason. That was how it all started, the whole thing. I'm going to ask a question. Ms. Bachman, do you have enough people to volunteer this year if you move back down there to get you through?
To be honest, we're on our second iteration of volunteers now because of this change.
Right.
We do have a fair amount of great volunteers, many who are in this room. We did have some good coverage.
Yeah.
They're not board people, but yeah, we had pretty much the schedule filled out
Okay.
up until August, but it's early
Okay.
to have August done.
Okay.
Then we resent the schedule out with the consolidation in order to just cover the 10-to-1, which was easier than
Okay.
doing both shifts. And so what I'm hearing today is that we'll do a another request for volunteers for the whole schedule. So everyone hang on, and we'll, if that's your pleasure, we'll send that out to cover. You know, since the tourism council is down to one voting member and three of us, two of us not voting,
Right.
we've relied on great volunteers, and thank you, you've done it.
Mhm.
And we, it's a great way to greet our guests. Where we do it,
Right, okay.
so we can get through this season if everyone signs up when we send that out again. We've got 20-some people on
Okay.
the list that do volunteer, some a lot.
Okay. How about the museum folks? Is anybody here? Could you, yes, ma'am, would you?
Yes, I have enough volunteers.
You do?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So, yeah, that's, I was just gonna say, my preference, real quick, I'll say it, would be to do what Mr. Rogers said and wait till the end of the season. And just keep if you have the people and you have the horses to run the show over there, then stay that way. But again, it wasn't the case before, so that's how we ended up here today. Anyway.
I think we can amend Mr. Zeller's motion with the stipulation that it be no sooner than the end of the season, but I don't want to leave out the requirement to get a plan put in place of what to do with the piece of property.
Okay, is there a second to the amendment?
But the only thing I would say on that, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Second.
Sorry.
Okay.
I just would say that the planning commission, how is that zoned in that piece of land? Off the top of your head.
At your direction, we would review the best use of that piece of property were it to be vacated, and that's a normal thing that we've done for council many times over. So if you would like to initiate that process, that's directed by you all that you would let us know to look into that, and we would begin our research, which, as the planning commission goes, would take until the end of the season. So
The reason I ask is because, as we all know, a lot of people come up and say, look, we'd like to buy the old police station and turn it into a restaurant. We'd like to do this, we'd like to do that. When they know it's for sale, when they know it's available. So, just to try to determine what it's going to be ahead of time is kind of hard to do, unless we know that it's in
But we don't really
a
say-
C1 or.
yeah, we don't really say exactly what type of business normally would go in there. We just say which use group it should qualify as the best use. So that would be whether we think it would be commercial or mixed use or residential or a combination of those things. And so we're not as specific as, whether it would be kayak rentals or a restaurant or anything
But
like
this
that.
motion was tied to a business plan.
No, I think it was a cost savings plan. We call it a business
Let
plan.
me see here.
Cost
I've got it written down as a business plan. It's still a business plan.
I called it a business plan, I can call it a.
Analysis of cost.
I don't care what they call it. The important thing is that we get a cost analysis, we're trying to save.
The way I wrote the motion down, shall I read it?
Yes, please.
Okay, what I wrote down, this is not a review of the tape, but what I've written. Tourism building not to be moved and consolidated with the museum until a business plan that outlines cost savings and a plan to market the vacated property is presented. Then there was a modification, a motion to amend, made by Mr. Serby that wanted to wait until the end of the season. No?
Mr. Rogers.
I think Mr. Rogers stated other than Mr. Service, Mr. made the motion.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to amend.
To make sure we still did the plan for the use of the property.
Okay.
PC reviewed this.
Mr. Mayor, real quick,
Yes, sir.
just so the public's aware and the council's aware, I'm going to vote nay on this motion and this amendment. It obviously needs to go back and work between these two groups and work with the town manager, possibly the mayor, to even find out if both groups are willing to do this. I don't think that happened to occur. And I don't think we need to, if we're looking at selling property, then yes, I agree that we need to figure out what we're going to do with it. And if we do sell the property, then it needs to be moved. But again, this hasn't been voted on. We're on a second motion and amendment, and so therefore I'm going to vote nay when you call for the vote.
We discussed this on that one work session. I think, since it was not a formal, but it was just consensus,
Right.
I don't think we need all the language to say not to do it. My suggestion would be just to say delay it. And then if we were to sell it or do any of that, that could be a second part that comes later on. If we're saying we're not gonna move now, that's all that needs to be said now, because if that happens, then nothing else will happen after that because we're not moving it. So I think the business plan and all that, if we were to then move it later on, if someone does want to buy that property, that would then only be putting that part forward. But right now, I think the only thing we should need to do is just make a consensus and say we're not going to move it now. We don't need to have any other stipulations to it. There's nothing else that would affect that. This consensus right now to say that we're not going to move.
The same way we got here, it's the same way we got out here.
We don't need to add any other stipulations to it. We're just saying we're not moving it.
So your point is that we just say we're not going to move it, period. Not at the end of the season, we're just not going to move it, period.
At this time, and then later on, if things change, then we make the motions, we make the resolutions, we make the consensus, whatever it is, to what we like to do. After we've talked to everybody. We don't need to add everything else to it now. We're saying we're not moving.
As long as we agree we're not going to move it, I'm fine with that.
Nothing changes.
So,
We have Mr.
So
Dollar
you
with
have
the...
an amendment and a motion.
I will remove the, I
withdrawal.
will remove the
You have to do
motion.
the amendment first.
Okay. I will remove
my amendment.
I will remove the motion, provided provided the move does not take place, period.
And I'll review it in a second.
The rest of you would be happy too.
So are we on the hook though, because you said the move wouldn't happen, period? Can you just say that the move won't happen, the move is not going to happen now?
Not now.
Now.
No action will be taken until the thing is addressed.
I don't know, we're telling people we're not going to move it, period, and then next year we get a call from the two groups and they want to consolidate for whatever reason.
That's a good point.
So, and then we're,
So will we agree that the move will not take place without the town council approval?
Can you put that stipulation on withdrawal of the motion?
If that's the case, let's just vote on it. We've all agreed to it.
Can I suggest,
We already withdrew it.
already withdrew it. What's wrong?
I have great trepidation, but I'm going to suggest a motion.
Yeah.
And the motion is that no move occur during this summer season, and that this issue be placed on the September work session agenda for further clarification.
All right, we're on. That's it. Good.
Somebody want to make that?
So moved.
So, second. Mr.
All right.
Alice. Steve. Bill.
Aye.
Bill. Aye. Chair votes aye. Thank you. All right, we haven't got to nuts and bolts yet.
I would just like to make one comment too, about the comment that the town manager made regarding my lack of feelings towards the police department. It was never an abolishment of our police department. It was just a look at the cost of having the Westmoreland County take it over. That was a whole nother step that had to take place, a whole nother step. And conflating those two issues is terribly unfair. And that's why it scares the hell out of the police officers and other people when they hear crap like that. It was never the intent to actually do it. It was to get a notion of what the cost savings would be, if any, and that's all.
And if I can say on top of that, we did ask Mr. Robertson several months ago to give us a breakdown of what the 41 cents was that we paid to the county, of which part of it was the police, and I don't know that we've ever gotten that breakdown.
He hasn't been back since. He's been out, in all fairness, he's been out with medical issues, so I know I know they're working on that, so we should see something shortly.
Thank you. Moving on to, I think we're in the whole business, correct? Yeah. Oh, no, still monthly department. Public Works, sorry. Wake up, Ralph. Sorry, brother.
We have, this is just an update of the projects in progress. Castlewood upgrade is outstanding, other than what we've gone in there for the parking upgrade, we've done regrading, and we actually did finalize some work on the playground area too. Pedestrian plaza is still in process. I basically last week got a revised quotation from Kimley Horn, which we shared, and we're looking at our final movement as far as selecting whether it be Kimley Horn or whether it be Land Studio. We'll hear more of that over the next few weeks. Completed projects, another thing, the Santa Maria Storm Drainage is already going. The water line replacement is complete 100%. That's the water line replacement portion of that, at 100%. Public boat launch is complete. Castlewood playground perimeter fencing is complete. That one was added.
It looks great, by the way. Thank you.
Rob, on the water line, is that, what's the status on the meter?
The meters is approximately 90%. You can move to the next one, unless there are further questions on this one. The drainage systems. The red perimeter where it says the long-term townwide recommendations, that's a continuous project that continues on as we bounce between different areas as time permits in different drainage areas. As I said before, there are numerous, there's approximately 55 different drainage areas within the area. Completed phase 1 Riverview Santa Maria. The reason that was phase 1 is we did one side of the road. We have to now have an issue on the opposite side of the road that we will be addressing also. So that phase 2 is down here. Upcoming storm piping on First Street. I'll give you an update on that. That is, the materials have been received in the later slides. Projected that, I believe, for approximately 2 weeks now when we finish another project that's on. Move to the next one. Road work, pending rotations, Gibbon Street. Those are pending. They'll be later in the year, pending funding and the availability of funds. It'll be in the next fiscal year. Completed. Stratford Circle were finally completed out of within the past 2 weeks, actually. Upcoming, you can see, maybe able to see them. I can't see what it is. We're going to be resurfacing Santa Maria. That should be commenced next week. North White Avenue and Dogwood Avenue are actually in process now. And then there will be some additional upcoming next week, which I don't see on the slide. I thought it was on there, but you also have the Washington Avenue, a significant portion of Washington Avenue will be on this side. One of them will be resurfaced. Also, you'll have, here we go, the project pipeline. Difficult to read at best. And I apologize for that. I'll see if I can give you a detail on this. Do you have paper copy yet? Yeah. Yeah, there's your base on the Dogwood Avenue and move down. I know Mr. McSturdy was a particular interest on First Street. As you see, that was scheduled 7/9 through 7/20. Some of that is weather dependent. Special projects. Update on the application to game and inland fishery is commencing. That was never made, and that's in relation to No Lake Zone. There's a map that's being developed with our proposed location, which is a requirement by the Game and Inland Fisheries. So we're working on that. Hopefully by the end of this week, get the application out to them for their review.
Real quick on that, have they reached out to help you with that? They promised us that they would actually give us a qualified sketch that we could follow and utilize.
They have not given me a sketch, so I have reached out to them, and they mentioned, and that's the first I heard of. Did they say that they would
They did,
provide
they
one?
actually said that they would provide us with a drawing where they wanted and the types of signs that they wanted, so we were well within compliance.
They said at that point, the last discussion I had was to provide our sketch of it, and that they would choose what type of that. They did provide me locations to purchase food. So I'll touch base again.
Okay, if you can, when you be back, look in that file that we have from this
Mhm.
and find a point of contact and reach out to that person because they were extremely helpful. They were transferred to another location, but he said it wouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
He would handle it. So, thank you.
Any other questions on this page?
Yeah, Rob, I've got a quick question for you. I hate to bring it up
Uh-huh.
with Mr. Serby sitting right here next to me. But boardwalk revitalization, we have here awaiting boardwalk redesign will be completed by December 18th. Is that the right one I'm reading?
It has to be.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The next one up, pedestrian plaza.
Mhm.
That's the one I meant to talk about.
Pedestrian plaza?
Please, excuse my eyes here. It says currently redesign phase, overbid, implementation construction beginning in the fall. Could you give us a little bit better feel of where we are with that? 'Cause, as I understood it, we were going to utilize the VDOT on-call consultant.
There is forest construction management and redesign. We had from Kinley Horn, which I think I mentioned a little earlier, a proposal to do the design. It was just over $40,000 to do the redesign and some of the construction management.
Will that be recouped from the grant when we get it?
That is eligible to be recouped from the grant.
All right, now my next question, we have the issue of the statutes and the cost of the statutes. And as I recall, VDOT was going to look into the feasibility of us being able to utilize those statutes and be reimbursed for that $90,000. Have you gotten an answer on that yet?
I have got a preliminary, no.
A preliminary note? Is it a
But
firm
they will keep looking to see if there's anyone, but that does not give me a long
No, I mean, when you're dealing with federal grants, you know, they normally.
It does not look, they do not feel that it will be.
And the final issue is, we were told that the funds were going to expire at the end of calendar year 18. Now, we're getting very close when you say construction to begin in the fall.
The DHCD, yeah, and that's probably extended, will be extended. They'll get it out to bid by then, from the later discussion with the, they still can get it out to bid by then. Now, DHCD, the Joint Beach Block Development Grant, there's a portion of that that is, and that is boardwalk, that was going to be a cost share. They were requiring that be completed by December 31st. I believe that's today.
So it's the downtown revitalization that had a portion that would augment the pedestrian plaza.
Okay.
The hurdle is that the extension was granted in the calendar year 2018, and we are here halfway
approved without it being designed yet. So what needs to be done is to reapproach to see if that can be extended. I think if we can get, agreement that there is groundbreaking or the design is in place, then we can realistically go to them without them laughing at us that, yes, this is going to take place and request for that extension. But this is true, it is not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed.
Well, we got the answer to that sooner rather than later, because we don't want to expend funds and only to find out we're not going to be reimbursed for that now.
Exactly.
Well,
And DHCD has been approached, has not gotten commitment.
yeah, so, and also there's an 80-20 on, so I want everybody to be clear on that. And so the hope would be that there's approximately 85, let's say 85,000, that's a match. No, that's available from the downtown revitalization for the additional project. And so that would help cover the 20% portion. However, we tried asking if that 85 could be the sculpture, so we tried a couple of ways, and that was shot down on way. So we did try and see if that matching portion, because then it wouldn't be within that extent is already occurred, so we wouldn't, they shot that down already.
And if I may, Bill. Yes, sir. Going back to the original meeting that we were in, the statues, when we asked about at that point in time, we went back and forth whose plan it was, how they came about. They were procured before actual money was granted because of the time it took to build these statues. That was what we were told. In that time, the principals from VDOT, who were in charge of that portion of it, had changed several times. And one had said, go ahead and get it. I'm basically guaranteeing that you'll get the funding. If you were at the meeting, you heard that as well. Well, at the end of the day, when we met with the higher-ups in VDOT, they basically said, he doesn't work for us anymore. We don't know what he said, basically, and therefore we're not on the hook for it. We're not going to pay. And I think you were there. I was there. So, as a result, as everybody knows by now, we had much less money to work with. But VDOT did say that they would continue their process. DHCD we had a little more difficulties with. However, because there were so many failures in all the parties involved, they concurred and said that, look, if you get this done, because they weren't going to get it until December 31st of 18 either, it was going to be done last year with the fact that it's been gone now. If you can come up with something and have something going on, originally it was finished, completed, but then I think we've gotten to where it's at least started. And I asked you to contact Joanne Pearman last week or the week before, and I assume you have.
I have not gotten in touch with you.
Okay, so she is the charge of DHCD to find out how we can go about assuring that we will have the funding as we move forward, or what funding we will have, whether it's part of the block grant, matching, or whatever. So at the end of the day, we should have some funds. We don't want to lose all the funds. We started out with 675,000, I think is what it was. That's what it was. And then been whittled down to 542, and then something else. We did spend $89,000 of town's money for 2 statues. Those statues are sitting in 700 Colonial Avenue, where they have been, and other than the pigeons who've enjoyed them, nobody else has had a chance to see them. We asked if they could be repurposed in another project from VDOT. They said that if they found another project where they could be repurposed, maybe they would buy them from us. So that was done prior to this council. That was done unbeknownst to anybody on council, basically. I say that at least, or Public Works, essentially. So anyway, that's water under the bridge at this point in time. We're dealing with the hand we have. So that's where we are. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
thing that has to be done is, I guess, at this point, contact Pearlman, and been in touch with Jerry Davis.
Okay.
Um, He's aware that it may not go to construction until about that time. Preliminarily said it'd be imminent also. I think it's the next contact you correct has to do with Ms. Pearlman.
Yes, I really would like to be reach out to her right away and get her, maybe an email in writing, what she wants.
Anything else in relation to this? This is just work distribution and the work distribution for the past month. You've seen this one before. That's for the general fund and then the utility. And that's it.
Any questions for Mr. Murphy from council? No? Thank you, Mr. Murphy, appreciate it. Ms. Gomez?
So, this is second month that we can give you the prior month information. I did run reports, because I know that everyone's aware that of the cyclical nature of real estate, and that we were anticipating revenue coming in first weeks of June, so they're due June 5th. A lot did come in, as you can tell. Let's see, we had 526,000 real estate for the current year come in within the first 20 days. So you add that to the 5.9 in total general revenue, you can see that we increased significantly. And
I'm
I
sorry,
ran the report.
excuse me, can you please use the microphone?
Okay, all right, so, what you see before you is as of May 31st.
Yeah.
Okay, I ran reports that show the numbers. This report is dated today, so this information is as of the close of yesterday. All right, so, real estate collected, first 19 days, 526,000. Okay? If I compare total general fund revenue through May 31st, 5.9 million. As of June 19th, it is up to 6.5. Okay? I've updated the delinquent accounts, and there has been some progress made, and that's just a lot of it. We haven't had anybody identified yet to fully focus on it, but, just through folks coming to pay other items, we kind of catch them. And so you can see there is some improvement there, without even anybody, fully dedicated to it. Any questions on this
So do you
high-level
have their
summary?
accounts red flagged somehow, so that when they come in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Any other questions from this slide? Okay, next slide. So this is where we were trying to compare month to month and the collections and the expenditures, the revenue. You can see that, we've had quite a bit of a change in increase in revenue this May over next May. I have to drill down to see, what the real absolute, reason for that is. That's a little bit more time involved for that. We can get you your numbers from the prior month. It's really difficult for us to thoroughly analyze them because we're,
That's a huge number.
We literally just closed on Friday, and I had like a day to just kind of look at stuff. So I believe that means that a lot of people paid their real estate early. But without like really going in, account numbers. But,
Could it also be partly because so many homes have been sold or now in the mortgage system where the mortgage companies are paying the bills as well?
It could be. We do have, that is very possible, but I don't have the numbers on that. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to be able to drill down a little bit more, but we literally just closed on Friday. It's really hard to export all this stuff.
The end of June.
Exactly. Well, yes, and I do want to remind everybody that there are accruals, both of revenues and expenditures, and we really won't know those until mid-August, the end of August, okay? So when I come in here next month with numbers as of June, it's basically going to be cash basis. And we talk about accruals next month, and I will have a summary of what historically have been revenue accruals and expenditure accruals, so we can get a feel for that in July with the new numbers. Okay? We don't have to, wait until August. Well, actually, it would be September, because I close on it. In the expenditures, I do want to point out that in comparing May 17 to 18, the boat ramp cost is in the May 18 numbers that wasn't there in May 17.
Yeah.
And that's when that went out the door. And any questions? And then this is just identifying again, we brought this out last month for the first time. The items in red are pooled cash.
Help me with that. What does that mean?
Pooled cash means that you as a town, next slide. The town of Colonial Beach and cities and counties quite often have one checking account, okay? So it's called pooled cash. Okay, and so that means that, if you cut a check out of the general fund, it comes out of that account. If the school writes the check, it comes out of that main account with the bank. So you have to keep track of it by fund. And this is telling you by fund what the cash, the pooled cash is. If you add up all of the items that are in red, that would equal the total that was in the bank.
The total in the bank.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so when you see a negative, if you recall last time, the general fund had a negative number. This time the sewer has a negative. It's just a timing of, and it's quite common because the water and sewer, the bill occurs, quarterly. Okay, and so I do think that as much as everybody really needs to remember that there's a lot of cyclical things that impact when we look at these numbers on a month-to-month basis. And in July, when we see the numbers for July, you're going to see a huge dip because we fund the school in its entirety. Okay, we don't send it over on a monthly basis. The town doesn't send it over on a quarterly basis. They send it over in its entirety.
Is there any county advantage to doing it another way, like on a quarterly basis?
I have seen it done quarterly. Another way to do it is to categorically send it over. So, like, we know that it's the $2.299 million going over, but for me to be able to work with the school system and say, okay, that 2.9 is spread across these counts, and I can tell you, or even just categorically. So we'll see on the resolution for the budget, when it is categorical, we could split that out between what the count portion and categorically is and by what comes in from other sources.
I wouldn't suggest doing it just for the sake of doing it, but is there an accounting advantage to doing it? Or is there a preferred way to do it?
I've seen it done
The
both
way we're
ways.
doing it is just fine as long
It's
as
fine,
it's
I've seen
consistent.
it done both ways, you know,
Okay.
some people say if you send it over quarterly, there's more fiscal responsibility, you know, I'd have to, I don't really know, I think it's fine, sending it over all at once,
Yeah.
it's not uncommon.
Okay.
Any questions? We had the audit, so I just want to say, we had a successful interim audit, and we've got some things to prepare, and they'll be coming back the first week of October, and I believe staff was pleased with the new approach and different things that they were looking at, and it was just kind of nice to have a new set of eyes, you know, and everybody kind of learned a lot of things from a new set of auditors.
Council? Any questions?
I did talk to Lisa and Adam, with respect to the auditors, and they seem very pleased with the way everything's been going with the new auditors.
Okay. Kathy?
I really don't have much to report other than ongoing effort to catch up on the minutes and just trying to push them out that way. FOIA activity went down, and I'm very excited about the new webpage that's, should be coming up. We'll have a lot more control, so I'll be able to make sure the agendas go on the webpage. We have places for public notices, for legal notices, so that hopefully it's going to be a lot more transparent and easy to use for all of our citizens. That's really all I have.
Any questions for Kathy?
Steve?
Yes, sir. The police department, for the month of May, we did not have any significant activities to report. This is all on page 1. Also on page 1, under the ongoing investigations, we're still working a suspicious infant death case that occurred at a residence off of Colonial Avenue. There's also a vandalism. We're still in the process of working on 12th Street, damage to property on Euclid, and an assault and battery that occurred on 1000 block of Marshall. On page 2 of the report, it is a snapshot of a lot of the criminal calls that our officers responded to, had reports for. Some of them are being investigated from 5/4/18 all the way through 5/30/18. And also, in addition to I think what's listed, I can't see the screen, but also in addition to the 2 pages, the total calls for service for the police department for the month of May was 524 calls for service. We had, our officers issued 38 traffic citations, and it was 30 parking tickets that were issued for the month of May. Also, the officers of the PD made 6 total arrests, representing assault cases, drug cases, and drunk in public cases. And that should conclude the report. Anybody has any questions or comments?
Council for the chief?
Mr. Chairman and members of Town Council, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. And for the last little over a month, I've been hiring staff and working on training of new staff, looking at the existing conditions of the office, as well as the the town in general, and working with the planning commission, started to work with the planning commission, seems like a very dedicated group of citizens. There's been a lot of interest. I've spoken to many realtors and citizens and others from outside the area who are in the process of purchasing property. A lot of interest, not just in residential, but in commercial development as well. So that's a great sign. And the building permits and, yes, it's construction season, so that is, that's moving along, working with developers and builders as well. And so I have basic information for you tonight. I have $1,500 that we have received in zoning permits, a little over $3,500 in building permits, and then for code enforcement, there was at one point only one person in our office. Now that's changing, but still at that time we were able to do 22 violations and abate 22 violations. In the next few months, I'll be bringing forward a more complete report for you that has more of an analysis and yearly and monthly reports. Thank you.
Any questions from this session?
Thank you very much.
Before we move on, I'd just like to say, I think our department reports are taking shape. I appreciate the work that's gone into it. I know it hasn't been easy. I think we're finally getting there. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, your comments?
I have none. I think I've said enough tonight.
Any alibis closing, I think we can move forward.
Yeah, thank you. Old business, item 9. Resolution 19-18 approves and adopts the Northern Neck Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. We discussed this at the last work session. Second, again, a very important document to have approved. We have been the recipient of the most help from this document most recently with the big April storms that we had a year ago. So, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll go to vote then. Mr. Allen? Aye. Mr. Wyman? Aye. Mr. Lehman?
Aye.
Mr. Serby? Aye. Mr. Dillon?
Aye.
Mr. Roderick?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you.
Bring up a couple old business. I have a question, a couple old business. I was kind of wondering on your ordinance.
Right.
Coming for the July work session.
We're not leasing that
I have not done anything with
Item 10 is new business. Resolution 20-18 approves and adopts acting police chief's employment agreement. That was in your booklet, if you had a chance to read it. I believe it's basically the same agreement we had
It is.
with the previous chief. Not this past one, but the one, the last time Captain Huff was acting chief, who's now Chief Huff, sake of namesake. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Discussion?
I would just like to say real quick that, and raise the same issue I raised at the work session. I don't think section 3 is clear at all. It says the town agrees to pay acting police chief for his services rendered, blah, 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 and his current salary. You know, what if we turn around and want to give him a raise in 6 months? I mean, it just makes, I don't know why we don't state what the salary is rather than beat around the bush and say it's his current salary plus a stipend of $500 a pay period. I mean, am I the only one that has a little difficulty with that?
The rationale is that generally around July 1st, salaries change, and it just,
Well,
the salary is a fact. You can certainly choose to include it if you like.
Doesn't that kind of argue for putting the specific amount in here? So we know what it is?
It's council's pleasure.
I also think, isn't there an issue though with, because it's a stipend, it doesn't move him as a whole like into another pay band?
Correct.
So it's not included as annual salary.
But you can certainly.
You see what I'm saying? So if you count the money, if it's an additional $10,000, just use it hypothetically, and that could move him into another pay band. What's that?
Salary.
Okay, what do you want to know about salary? It's the captain's salary with a stipend to make up for the additional work.
I just, well, first of all, no one here knows what the salary is, I don't think. Maybe the vice mayor knows, because he was a police officer, but I don't think the rest of us really know. We talked about it briefly last time, and I believe the chief said it was about something, you know, I can't even remember what it was now.
The previous police chief's salary was $88,000. When you asked Mr. Captain Humph what his salary was, he told you what it was.
He said it was about something, and I don't even remember what it was.
$50,000.
But don't you want that in the agreement? Why wouldn't you want it in the agreement, I guess?
Well, why would his salary change? His salary's not
Oh,
changing.
well, we might give him more age a lot.
Yeah, well, that's why, okay.
I'm not gonna vote.
No, it's all good, whatever you
I'm
want
not
to
gonna
do.
vote nay on the thing just because of this, but I think it causes the problems down the road. And beyond that, we don't even know what the salary is.
It's public information.
Okay, I give up. That's fine.
Yeah, let's not put it in.
Mr. Chairman, call the vote.
Call for a vote. Mr. Alger? All right. Mr. All right. Thank you. Mr. Dunn? Mr. Lehman?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Surley?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Duff?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Chair votes aye. Thank you. Resolution 21-18 amends the bylaws for the Tourism Advisory Council. Going back to this again, is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
What this is, for my discussion for clarification, this is that they can appoint somebody else from outside, you don't have to live in town of Palm Beach limits now to be part of the Tourism Advisory Council. Any discussion?
I want to, real quick, the town manager, we discussed this earlier in the meeting, and I think it would be very beneficial if he were to explain why this is so broad.
Yes, I did receive a couple of phone calls about why it was written so broad. We have two individuals, and I don't want to go by name, but they're not permanent residents of Colonial Beach. However, one comes up here and does a ton of events for us, successfully, I might add, who spends time on their boat, which is in the Colonial Beach slip, to where if we were to shorten the scope of who could be a part of the council, they would be included. Another one is that we have our own representative from Flagship who would like to take part in the council as well, who resides in D.C. So if we were to limit it, these two people that have a lot of value added, that contribute significant amounts to the town, would not be able to perform any council duties. And I'd be remiss if we kind of took that ability away. And it was supposed to be aligned with the move and to bolster tourism activity as a whole.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So for a vote, Mr. Alger? Aye. Mr. Lively?
Aye.
Mr. Lehman?
Aye.
Mr. Surley?
Aye.
Mr. Dillon?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ordinance number 693 amends Town Code Section 20-2, real estate tax. Public hearing was held on June 2nd, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss real quickly and try to explain why I'm going to possibly vote nay on this particular piece of legislation. Number one, I think the town sense is above and beyond what was requested by the town manager. He was looking for, I believe, 6 to 8 cents. Also, in the past couple of months, I've enumerated a number of funding streams that I think would augment our funding, our revenues. None of them were taken to heart. I think this is a tax increase of biblical proportion. It's too high. In order to make a concession, I would, however, be willing to sign up to this with the understanding that the ordinance be amended to state that after 2 years, the tax increase goes away unless enacted upon by a successor council. So I would make that requested amendment if I may.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a second?
The motion is not approved. So moving forward with the vote, Mr. Alger?
Aye.
Mr. Lyburn?
Aye.
Mr. Lehman?
Aye.
Mr. Serby?
Nay.
Mr. Deller?
Nay.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Resolution 22-18 adopts and appropriates the fiscal year 2019 budget. Also held, the hearing was held in public here on June 2nd, 2018. Is there a motion? Second? Discussion? Mr. Alger? Aye. Mr. Lyburn?
Aye.
Mr. Lehman?
Aye.
Mr. Serby?
Nay.
With explanation, I mean, I can't in good conscience,
Yeah.
I can't in good conscience vote for a budget.
I know, but I just wanted someone else is asking with the vote.
No, I'm just staying.
Mr. Deller?
Nay.
Okay, Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Resolution 23-18 accepts the property located at 315 Douglas Avenue from the Columbia View School Board. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Discussion? Mr. Alger?
Aye.
Mr. Lyburn?
Aye.
Mr. Lehman?
Aye.
Mr. Serby?
Aye.
Mr. Deller?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Motion passes. Resolution 24-18, fiscal year 2017-18 budget, general fund and capital improvement fund, tab H. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion?
I would just like to suggest that under paragraph 2, where there's a number of, it looks like accounting line items there in dollars, that there be some narrative there so we know where it's going.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, well, I can tell you the.
Well, I'd like to see it in the
Oh, you put it
resolution.
in here? Okay.
Yeah.
So what,
The description, I'll.
Paragraph 2,
Mr. Deller?
yes, ma'am.
You're requesting that the resolution be amended to include narrative, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
For the funding streams under paragraph 2,
right.
For the 148,000, is that correct?
yes.
Okay.
So, the first line, is ending in 0001, what line, what is that?
Hang on, fine.
Fire department?
It's actually called sale proceeds, fire department. And the next line, 002, sale proceeds / rescue squad. 003, sale, proceeds, CD school. And then 004 is sale proceeds, general fund.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yes. There's nothing in that ordinance, if I remember correctly, that was passed by the prior council, I guess, on the sale of property to safeguard us from raiding the capital improvement fund again, like we did this year. Is there, I'm asking that, I guess, I don't believe there is. I don't think there is unless
There is.
there's not.
Yes, there is. There's an ordinance, there's a town ordinance. All sale of property by town ordinance has to go into a capital improvement fund, not into the general fund, into the capital improvement. I think it's 5% goes to.
No, I realize that. My point
Yeah,
is
but
that we're
then,
raiding.
right, the next step of that is that in order to spend money out of the capital improvement fund, there has to be a there has to be 4 people that vote yes out of council to spend that money. You cannot transfer money from the capital improvement fund and spend it on anything unless 4 out of the 7 of you vote yes, and that specifically states 4 members.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
So we vote on the amendment first and then. Okay, second the amendment.
Mr. Geller, do you want to formally move the amendment to the resolution as stated?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, so we're voting on the amendment right now? Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Lyon? Mr. Moon?
Aye.
Mr. Serby? Mr. Geller?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Now we're voting on the resolution. Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Lyon? Mr. Flynn?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
So,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to citizen input. Is that correct? Let's see here. Betty Whitestone.
I think you heard my response.
We heard you.
Please.
I could tell you more, but there's no reason to
I know.
tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank
I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Betty. Walter?
Walter Kern, KERN. I got several topics to talk about. When I was reading the Public Works report, in there it had the resurfacing of Santa Maria Avenue. All the damage on Santa Maria is between Wakefield and Stratford Circle. When you talk about repaving that whole road, it doesn't need it. Now, I read an article in today's Westmoreland News, and it had to do with Eleanor Trailer Park. What the council needs to know, and the mayor, at a work session, no vote can be taken without public comment being allowed. I had a business in town, and she was from Kilmarnock, and she is the first time visitor here. And I took her for a ride around the point to see what we had. And she was amazed of what we had to offer. Now, it's amazing also what you can get off of Facebook concerning Colonial speech. All the comments was concerning the tourism center. And also, at a work session, the department reports need to be given at this time, not at a public town council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Jay Jarvis?
Jay Jarvis, 225 Boundary Street. I had 3 topics I was going to discuss tonight. But thanks to Mr. Dillard, my number 2 topic I'll pass on. I did not agree with the move of the information center to the museum. I don't disagree that it's a bad idea. I think it's a bad timing. We went through the, I won't say clown managers we had before that would vacate buildings with no plan to inhabit them. It appeared at the time that this was what was happening down on the end of Hawthorne. I did want to now, as with your resolution that you just passed as an over taxpayer of the town, I'd like to discuss the water leaks in the town. We've had a water leak on Monroe Avenue in Weems, and I know it's right at that brand-new intersection that was refurbished last year. It has leaks through that for a year. My estimate is we're losing 75 to 125 gallons per day from that one leak. The second leak is on Garfield and Wilder on the corner. It was been worked on, but it is still leaking. In my estimate, we're somewhere between 50 and 100 gallons per day. Now, I haven't got my itemized bill yet, but hopefully by the next quarter, I'll have that, and I can tell you exactly what the cost is to us individual taxpayers with that being wasted.
We're monitoring that.
Huh?
We are also going to monitor the infrastructure losses too.
Okay, good. The third one is the sewer leaks upon Losing. If you take a ride down Losing Avenue, you'll see that nice little green and yellow water coming up through the pavement. That generally is an indication of a sewer leak. Now, if I was a neighbor, I'd know I'd be in, adjacent to that, I'd be in Rob Murphy's desk every morning finding out when that would be replaced.
How long ago did you notice this sewer leak?
The sewers, I did that survey yesterday on Losing.
Did you call?
Yeah, there's 4 spots on Losing with, you can drive down the road, I do it on my bike.
Did you contact Public Works?
I could have.
Huh?
I could have,
Okay. I'm just curious.
but I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Location, please, since I'm taking a work request.
I'll get you a location, I'll call it tomorrow.
Thank you.
And the third comment, let me just say, I do like the change to the meeting, the town manager and the business reports. That's outstanding. That's a great step in the right direction. The other thing I'd like to talk about is the council members. When a lot of Alders can attend every meeting, but most of us, or a lot of us, do watch it online when we can. When we can't make a meeting, get online. There are several of you that feel like this, and for the audience, we can't understand you. And for those of us that are hard of hearing, ladies, please speak into the mic. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Kathy Bachman.
Hey, good evening. It's going long, so I'll try to be short. Kathy Bachman, 1501 Augustine Lane. I really wanted to just comment on the tax increase that we just voted at 10 cents. You know, personally, I'll be writing a check now for over $1,000 more, and that hits our pocketbook, and I appreciate we do need to raise taxes, but as I look through Section F, and I've said this to many of you, I don't understand why we with a town that's 2.7 square miles, give or take, right? We have a transportation budget for students of $396,000. Seems like a really big number for as small as our school is. And as you look for me to have to make changes to my budget, to be able to write a check for $1,000 plus, I'd ask that other organizations that we fund do the same. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was on 9th Street, and there were 3 buses together. We don't have that many kids on 9th Street, I don't think. So I would ask, that was a very, very big budget item that's, I'm not looking for money. I figure you guys do that fiscally. It seems for 2.6 miles, for us to go also out into the county and to pick kids up might be part of that. So I'd ask that we look at that. Secondly, I wanted to just talk about the tourism transformation that tried to happen. And I'd like to compliment Quinn Robertson. He really did reach out to us. Some of us aren't on email, so it's harder to communicate, and tried to work with the museum and the tourists and to collaborate. So you may not have heard that through the noise of people who didn't want this to happen, but there are also people who think that that change potentially, ultimately, might be a benefit. Timing, not optimal, but where we greet our visitors with our smile and let people know about us, isn't as important as the building, as the people who do it. And so I think, as we work together after season, and I would like to compliment the town on their commitment to tourism. What we talked about today was really visitor services. This year with My Cottages was the first time during the Potomac River Festival that I had guests because of the festival. So something's going right with tourism, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Steve Kennedy. Okay, that's it for citizen input. Dr. Farney?
Peter Farney, 3419 Riverview Drive. I'd like to augment what Jay Jarvis said. It's really painful for us in the audience. There's 50 people here who are interested in what you're saying. It's really painful not to be able to hear. Now, I don't think that it's always people who have to speak right into the microphone. I think there's something wrong with this system. Maybe it needs new batteries. Maybe the volume on the speakers needs to be turned up or something else. But sitting the third row back, I can't hear lots of times. So it's a personal request. I request that somebody look into the microphone and speaker system. Thank you.
Real quick, I just want to say I couldn't agree more. It's frustrating. Tonight was especially frustrating. The issue is our portable microphones. That's why we're hardwired here. So we'll look into immediately getting the rest of them hardwired, including the one at the stand there. Because I agree with you. I can hardly hear what they're saying, and they're a lot closer to me over here. So we'll make that happen.
Okay, well, one of the problems is that you are localized and facing in one direction. We're listening to the back of your heads.
Right.
So something's got to be done, and part of it is speaking into the microphone, but part of it is the volume too. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Any reason for a closed meeting? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Jean Connerty, 207 Monroe Bay Avenue. I'm short, damn it. Can you hear me now? Okay. I would like to thank Quinn also. Recently we came up with 3 new brochures in order to get people to do things within town. One is a scavenger hunt, one is a tour of the murals, and one is a walking tour. And I've got sets of all 3 for each of you here. Quinn was very nice about helping me out, getting them done. I've got them around town and they are going very well. And I would just like to say thank you for your help. I would also like to thank you for your help at the car show. I'm one of the founding members of the club, and there was some things that didn't go right at the very beginning, and Quinn showed up, got it squared away, and the members are most grateful. I wanted you to know that. Thank you. Kathy, would you take these?
Steve's back.
He's back.
Mr. Kennedy?
It's sets of 3, dear, so that you each get a set. Thank you. Yes, we were waiting for you to come back.
Actually, Mr. Kennedy, we already marked you off the list.
That's okay, you might not like it when I get done anyway. I want to thank Ms. Robinson for talking to me this afternoon and clearing up some issues. I was going to talk about the tourism and the museum consolidation, but I'm not going to go near that, okay? But what I am going to say is I think you owe everybody in this room an apology.
Okay.
I've never seen a demonstration like that before. I've been on that side of the table, and to see that this evening, I come here to get information. I want to see what you guys are doing. I want to hear what's going on in town, the ordinances you're working on, everything else that's going on. Sometimes, Mr. Serby, I agree with you, sometimes I don't, but I want to hear what you have to say. And Mr. Mayor, I think you owe an apology for not keeping control of this meeting tonight.
Okay.
These people come here to hear this. They don't come here to watch you air your dirty laundry like you did this evening. And I think you owe everybody here an apology. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adjourn.
There's another one.
Good evening. Good evening. Is it working? Good evening. My name is Joyce Gunderson. There's a lot of things on social media. I want to say that the Potomac River Festival is always the same date. And that weekend, there is a lot of things going on that weekend. And we have had the Potomac River Festival for 67 years. I know there's some question, and it's going to come out about who didn't attend graduation and that sort of thing. And I just want a heads up that the schools can change their graduation dates, and next year will change their graduation dates. Ours at Potomac River Festival for the Chamber always stays the same. So I just want to kind of heads up, because I know there's been some stuff out there that y'all are repercussions, we're hearing that no one from town council was there. So
At the school?
at Burkett was, yes, but yes, at the school graduation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll
So,
let
and I said there's a lot
the
going
Vice Mayor
on.
speak on this, so I don't have to apologize.
I have asked many times for it to be changed the date at the start of the year so we wouldn't have so much going on. And, I mean, y'all cannot be every place, and that's just my take on it. I am there every year, and we should worry about what is going out of the school and where those kids are going after the fact than worrying about where my 7 people are that Sunday afternoon. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could have the floor, please. Joyce, I appreciate your comments, but just to clarify with you, there was nobody on this council that was invited to that graduation. And let me tell you, I ran into Mr. Robertson and Jen Grigsby, who's the high school principal, who's a very good friend of mine. We sat on a couple of different committees together, and she assured me on Sunday afternoon that those invitations were mailed out to everybody on council. I got an email on the following Monday or Tuesday stating that it was her error that the secretary or the administrative assistant at the high school had to leave and did not get those items in the mail. Right here's a man that attends every school board meeting, and he's assigned to the school board, and he was not aware that the graduation was going on. The only reason I was aware is because I happened to drive down First Street on my golf cart and saw everybody parked everywhere. So,
and I attend every year.
Nobody got it, and there's a lot of chatter on social media, and if you believe everything that you read on social media, that's your own prerogative. But to defend everybody sitting behind this table, we did not get an invitation to that high school graduation.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor?